Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on KAKM for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. Up first, some record highs set again today. Sunday, Valdez, 81 degrees. That broke the old record of 70, set back in 2006. And Palmer, 79. They actually, at 4 p.m., reached 80 degrees, breaking the old record of 78 set just 2 years ago. And Kenai, 79 degrees this afternoon, breaking the old record of 72 set back in 2002. Anchorage is up to 76, but the record high for Anchorage today was 85 degrees set in 1969. And up on the warnings map, this is warnings for the Susitna Valley and Copper River Basin for extreme fire danger beginning now and extending through tomorrow evening for north winds of 10 to 25 miles per hour and relative humidities dropping down to 12 to 20%. Again, that's out for now and continues through tomorrow evening, at least until 10 p.m. Monday evening. Up next, this is a wildfire burning on both sides of the Parks Highway near Willow. At milepost 77, the highway is closed, and it's about 200 acres or so in size, and evacuations are underway out of Willow. And moving on to the fire danger for today, you can see high fire dangers plotted here for the Susitna, Madanuska Valley, extreme fire dangers for the northern Kenai Peninsula, and the upcoming weather conditions are just going to make it that much more difficult to fight the fire up there near Willow. But we've got areas of extreme fire danger over the northern upper Yukon Valley and through the central interior down toward the 40-mile country areas and back to the extreme fire dangers in the Copper River Basin, as well as the northern southeast coast here, where Skagway pushed up to 81 today and Juneau was up near 80 as well. Moving on to satellite imagery, there was some clouds here over the southeast coast, especially down to the south, associated with some scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, but mostly sunny skies, northeast winds there, making for a warm day over the northern panhandle. Had a system disturbance with some rain passing along the eastern Arctic coast there, north slope areas, and some of that moisture streaming southward through the east central interior all the way down across south central Alaska and the Kenai Peninsula, and some of that even reaching down to Kodiak Island, but that's just all mid and high level clouds, not associated with any rain or storminess. Big area high pressure and sunshine out here to the west, extending north to the north slope there, but a lot of low clouds here out along the coastline. And then that system out here, a lot of moisture out over the central and western Aleutian areas streaming northward, just catching St. Lawrence Island there, and the clouds and rain occurring with gale force winds again today here from St. Lawrence Island northward all the way up to Franklin Point. Pretty gusty winds here in advance of a front right through this area here, where Tin City again seeing gusts to 50 miles per hour, and Cape Lisburne had gusts to 66 miles per hour earlier today, all just in advance of this cold front with areas of rain, drizzle, and fog associated with it. And then this trough bringing that moisture across the eastern Arctic coast, had some rain from Barrow all the way over to Kaktovik with areas of fog and drizzle, but amounts not all that heavy, and then those clouds streaming southward from that moisture source there, but no precipitation south of the Brooks Range at all. Again, this just mid and high level moisture. Scattered thunderstorms developed here over the southern southeast coast this afternoon. Several lightning strikes detected over Prince of Wales Island, and then another batch of thunderstorm activity there near and just east of Hyder and Stewart. Otherwise, isolated showers showers. Again, variable clouds, but mostly sunny skies, especially over the northern southeast coast. Even some of the southern areas reached into the mid-70s today. Out along the coast, you can see this area low clouds earlier today from southern Seward Peninsula across Norton Sound, and right along the coast. Bethel started out cloudy with some areas of fog, but burned off the sunshine this afternoon with temperatures in the high 60s, but out under the high itself, pretty well socked in here along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Areas of rain, fog, and drizzle from the central Aleutians all the way out to Shimmy. Again, that's streaming northward along that frontal boundary, just catching the western portions of St. Lawrence Island. And for tonight, you'll see that front moves inland, brings a chance of rain back to the central Arctic coast, trailing back with some moisture there to the Noatak Valley, Kivalina, Point Hope. Of course, Cape Lisburn, winds will begin to diminish behind that front, but there are still gale warnings out tonight from Wales all the way up to Point Franklin. And those winds will become a little more southwest and begin to diminish once that front moves on through. Otherwise, high pressure here now just west of Nunivak Island, so that northeast wind flow, that's going to inhibit any reformation of the low clouds here along the southwest coast. Bristol Bay as well, already seeing the north winds all day in through Dillingham over toward Togiak, and that's going to keep it socked in here again on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, but good VFR conditions on the south side, staying clear VFR for Kodiak Island. Mild conditions, especially where the breezy areas are, staying in the mid to upper 50s for the lows tonight. And 40s to lower 50s over the interior with light winds. Again, still pretty gusty though through some of the channeled areas here through the mountain passes of both the Alaska Range and the Coast Range. 10 to 25 miles per hour, again creating those extreme fire dangers for the Copper River Basin, the Susitna Valley, and still a chance of some showers here over the southern southeast coast with just variable clouds on to the north, and then some more rain with this weather front south of the Aleutians. Keeps it wet there for the areas from about Atka west to Adak, and east winds 20 to 30, gusts 35 miles per hour for tomorrow. High pressure a little farther off the coast now, and that front coming over the top brings a chance of rain to the eastern Arctic coast, trailing back with some showers along the trailing edge of that front back across Kotzebue Sound. Scattered shower chances across the Seward Peninsula all the way back to St. Lawrence Island, with areas of low clouds and fog right up into the Chukchi Sea areas, but break behind that over the western North Slope. And it should be a pretty nice day tomorrow. Warm temperatures, 70s to lower 80s, even up into the eastern Brooks Range areas. And again, sunny and hot here over the interior, with 75 to 85 degree readings will likely here over the Copper River Basin. And the warmest areas will be the Kuskokwim Valley, Tanana Valley, and Susitna Valleys, with Kenai Peninsula, even some areas reaching the lower to mid 80s as well over the interior. Sunshine again along the North Gulf Coast, staying clear over much of the Gulf of Alaska, and some of that will into the Panhandle. Tomorrow, a day much like today here, with a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms over the southern areas, maybe up to the eastern border, Wrangell possibility, but pretty dry, and again continued mild, but those winds beginning to diminish there over the northern Panhandle, still north to northeast and gusty through the channeled areas. And looking ahead to Tuesday, we'll see that area of high pressure still pulls back a little farther to the west. Disturbance coming across the Bering Strait here with some shower chances into St. Lawrence Island, maybe the western Seward Peninsula by the afternoon hours. Otherwise, low clouds and fog up along the Chukchi Sea coast, western Arctic coast. Good VFR, clear skies, sunshine there for the eastern Arctic coast. The North Slope looking really good, the Brooks Range. And again, another sunny, hot day for all the interior valleys. Again, 75 to 85 plus here with this trough axis right across southern Alaska. So as long as that's to the south of the area, little if any marine air is going to come into the region here over south central Alaska. Kodiak Island staying nice with that westerly wind flow there, keeping temperatures warm and sunshine. And then northeast winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. So beginning to diminish here over the Susitna Valley, definitely the Copper River Basin, but an increase back out through this area. So fire dangers will be on the rise here over the southwest interior areas. Otherwise, again, a repeat, a couple of days like today coming up for the Panhandle, with a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms there over the southern areas, but staying variably cloudy to mostly sunny to the north. And there is a chance of some showers and isolated thunderstorms now on Tuesday afternoon for the eastern Alaska Range and the Wrangell Mountains. Otherwise, same story out here to the west, a front keeping it wet from Adak out towards Shimia, as well as on the breezy side with some small craft advisories. Temperatures this afternoon, in the mid-70s here. It was in the mid-70s at Klawock until those showers moved in, dropped to about 10 degrees, but that's 77 at Juneau. It's up to 74 today in Sitka, with 79 there at Yakutat, 76 over at Cordova. There's at 81 at Valdez. Talkeetna, the warm spot in the state today, at 82 degrees at 4 p.m. and 79 down at Kenai today, with 74 in Anchorage at 4 o'clock, 72 down at Homer, and Seward at 71 degrees. Very nice temperatures for this point in June. And up in the Tanana Valley, temperatures in the upper 60s to mid to high 70s with 76 degrees, both at Tanana and Fairbanks. Delta at 69, 70 degrees at Fort Yukon. Up along the Arctic coast, Barrow had 43, 20 degrees warmer though. More sunshine, southwest breeze there, warming it up to 63 at Deadhorse, 65 at Kaktovik, and not too bad here over the northwest either, with 72 at Kobuk, or at Ambler in the Kobuk Valley, 75 at Bettles, and mid-70s here all the way down to, till you hit 81 degrees there at Sleep Mute, 78 at McGrath, upper 30s still at Tin City, 37 degrees, 43 over at Gamble. And off to the southwest, Bristol Bay warming up quite a bit today. You can see 80 degrees at King Salmon, 81 in Dillingham, 72 there on the sunny side of the Alaska Peninsula at Chignik. Kodiak up to 68, 52 at Unalaska, upper 40s for the Pribilofs and the Aleutians. Lows for tonight, 40s to mid-50s here over the southeast coast. Upper 40s to mid-50s here over south central Alaska, lower to upper 50s or just in the 50s here for the southwest areas here. A little cooler back toward the Bering Sea, and 40s to lower 50s up over the central interior, and lows in the upper 30s here, mid to upper 30s over the western Arctic coast, back down toward Point Hope, and then in the 40s for Kotzebue Sound. Highs for tomorrow into the 80s all the way up there to Fort Yukon, 80 forecast for Eagle with 82 at Fairbanks, and then mid-80s. The warmest area looks like it'll be the Susitna Valley at Talkeetna with 86. Into the lower 80s for the Copper River Basin and Valdez, possibly up to 83 again, with the Kenai Peninsula interior areas about the same. Otherwise 70s along the coast, 73 for Kodiak, 70s to near 80 here over the southeast coast, with the clouds and showers keeping it nearer 70 down to the south there, and no change out over the Bering Sea with temperatures in the 40s, 40s to near 50 out over the Aleutians, but Unalaska again up to 54. And for flying weather, look for some IFR along the western Arctic coast, otherwise marginal conditions through the Chukchi Sea and the Bering Strait, and then from about St. Lawrence Island down to St. Matthew Island over to the Yukon Delta coast. Pretty good chance of seeing some IFR due to the low clouds and fog, with marginal conditions in over Norton Sound. But increasing northeast winds is going to push that VFR off the coast tomorrow, but still marginal for the Pribilofs, and then IFR here for the Alaska Peninsula on the north side back into the Aleutians, and lots of IFR over the western central Aleutians, southwest Bering Sea. Passes all VFR again tomorrow and the next day as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, the entire Alaska range will be VFR with both entrances open. Windy VFR. Isabel, good VFR. Northern and south approach from Antasta, VFR. Tanita, wide open. Portage, VFR. And for Chilkoot and White, both VFR. Freezing levels tomorrow, upper level high, 12,000 feet, with those temperatures rising into the mid-80s here over the Susitna Valley areas, and 70s and 80s elsewhere over the just about all of the interior. And not too bad, 8 to 10,000 feet over the southeast coast. Not much of a gradient here except out where the frontal boundary is, out over the western Arctic coast, northwest coast, 8 to 10,000 feet, but all these levels pretty high. And for icing threats here with the shower activity, some mixed icing possible there over the southern southeast coast, icing free elsewhere. And then with that cold front passing the central north slope, there's a chance of some icing here from the eastern Arctic coast back into the Brooks Range. Icing free all the way out to about Atka, and then some rime icing below about 14,000 feet there for the western Aleutians. And looking at the winds aloft, big area of high pressure aloft here in that warm air with, again, the 10 to 12,000 foot freezing levels, and the flow around that about 70 to 80 knots here around about all of the interior. Still northeast, 70 to 80 knots here across the northern Panhandle. That's going to keep those gusty winds in northern Lynn Canal going at least for another day, day and a half. They should start to diminish and switch around down there by Tuesday afternoon. Otherwise, at 9,000 feet, northeasterlies 15 to 20 knots for the northern Panhandle. Westerlies 20 to 35 knots, strongest along the western and central Arctic coast, but you can see considerably lighter winds now down across the Chukchi Sea to St. Lawrence Island. Big area high pressure covering the Bering Sea with easterly flow here across the southern Bering Sea to southeast, 30 to 40 knots over the western and central Aleutians. 3,000-foot wind flow about the same direction, 25 to 35 knots here over the western and central Aleutian areas with that high west of Nunivak Island. Northeast winds 20 to 30 knots. That's going to help keep that low cloud deck pushing itself off the coast there. And westerlies 20 to 40 knots there, especially ahead of that front as it crosses the central Arctic coast and North Slope tomorrow. Northerlies 10 to 20 knots here across southern Alaska. And turbulence-wise, some occasional moderate chop for the central and western Arctic coast. Otherwise, mechanical turbulence through the Kobuk, maybe Koyukuk Valley out to Kotzebue. Southwest mountains here, and then moderate chop below 5,000 feet out over the western Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
The following program is brought to you by the Ocean Alaska Science and Learning Center, a partnership dedicated to understanding and preserving the marine ecosystem connecting Alaska's national parks through research and education. The pristine wilderness of Kenai Fjords National Park is becoming increasingly popular as a destination for kayak campers. As visitor use increases, so does the interaction and potential for conflict between humans and wildlife. Black bears are abundant along the park's coastline, and park managers are interested in preventing negative interactions and protecting both bears and park visitors. A team of researchers is investigating how bears react to human presence in Kenai Fjords National Park. Steve Partridge, biologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, is one of the principal investigators in this study.
I think the original focus of it was to try to determine how people's activities in the fjords here affect bear behavior, and especially in places like these meadows that are really important, especially early on for bears. Typically they're losing weight right now as before the berries come out, so anything they can get in the way of green vegetation is good for them. So I think what we wanted to initially do is look at how people moving around in the meadows or approaching on kayaks or powerboats affected these bears in the meadows. And so what we've done is found bears in these meadows, and depending on where the bears were, we might approach them on a powerboat, or we might try to get in on a kayak. But what we're doing is we're with laser rangefinders, we're trying to figure out when the bear notices the person's approach first, and so that would be a distance that we definitely want. And then the next distance we would want, at what point does the bear change its behavior from what it was doing previously, which is generally foraging, to maybe just staring at us now and not eating anymore. And then the probably most important one is, at what point does the bear decide now it wants to leave? It's uncomfortable, people are too close.
Researchers patrolled areas known to be frequented by black bears in early spring. When they sighted a bear, they began a systematic approach, recording the bear's behavior as they drew nearer and nearer.
Bear on the right's watching us too. 205. Yeah.
I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I want to say probably what we'd call the flushing distance, probably averaged right around 100 meters, which I think is fairly consistent.
Since black bears are so abundant in Kenai Fjords, park managers have made efforts to limit human and bear interactions by providing food storage lockers or lines for hanging food on the most popular beaches, and requiring bear-resistant food containers at other locations. Containers can be checked out at the park headquarters in Seward free of charge.
I don't think that this park has had any history of a few, I think, tent destruction cases, but nothing serious where any kind of, injury was involved, I don't believe. So I don't know, it wasn't a safety issue, I think. It's maybe just trying to look and see if we could, you know, as this part of the bay becomes more popular, try to get in ahead of the curve and putting together some really good guidelines for kayakers to try to minimize any disturbance that people may have in these meadows.
The Nuka Bay region, where Partridge's team was working, is the more seldom visited part of Kenai Fjords National Park. It also contains more extensive meadow habitat than the more steep-sided fjords elsewhere in the park.
And these places provide some of the only opportunities they have, or the earliest opportunities they have to get grass. And a lot of these places that are snow-free, you know, at least back to a little ways. So there's always a little vegetation on the periphery that they can get. So it's definitely important in early season, and just good forage for them, I think. So.
Another part of the study involved monitoring the most productive meadows with time-lapse video cameras for several days with no humans present, then establishing a camp in the meadow to see if the bear's foraging behavior was affected. This data has not been fully analyzed yet. In general, though, Partridge was surprised at how oblivious some bears can be to human presence.
Or there's a misconception about how much bears are paying attention to their surroundings. I think a lot of people think they're really tuned into everything and they can, you know, they see at a mile or smell you at a mile. But I think a lot of times, since they're not typically worried about predators, they kind of, you know, get in their own little world like the absent-minded professor. And boy, I've surprised a lot of bears, you know, and as probably a lot of other people have, without trying it at all. So that was surprising. That I think it's, you know, I think sometimes they're not paying as much attention as you think they should be. You know, you learn out here for sure how difficult it is to try to tease these things out, and I think probably, if nothing else, I think we'll get great data on the approaches. I think we can provide Kenai Fjords with some good information there, and I think a lot of people, if you just tell them that, you know, hey, here's these meadows and there's going to be a lot of bears in there and it's a good area for them to feed, they'll probably avoid those areas because they don't want to disturb the animals, and a lot of times they just need the information. And so hopefully we'll be able to provide a lot of good basic information on how these bears are using these meadows.
In the end, park managers hope to use the information that Partridge and his co-investigators are gathering to minimize the potential for negative or harmful interactions between bears and park visitors, while maximizing the opportunities for bears to thrive and people to enjoy the wilderness of Kenai Fjords National Park.
I think, you know, we still have a really good chance up here to preserve wild populations of bears, and there's a lot of areas I think that there's really good conservation efforts. So for a bear biologist, this is a dream come true, you know. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to do up here. So.
Southeast coast. Again, those small craft advisories, northern Lynn Canal tonight and tomorrow with higher gusts through the channeled areas. And for Tuesday, light variable winds here, trough right through this area, but northerly winds on the north side of that up to 20 knots, and then southwest winds at 20 knots. So kind of a change going on here. Light variable winds there for Clarence Strait. Starting out early in the day, north 25, but those diminishing in the afternoon, becoming more variable later on. For the North Gulf Coast, all winds variable at 10 knots down the east side of Kodiak Island. Shelikof Strait variable. Northerlies 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet, and light winds for Prince William Sound. And the outlook here for Tuesday, still pretty light winds most areas. A little bit of an increase here, 15 knots along the east side of Kodiak Island, the Barrens. Northwest 10 knots, Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound. Another light variable wind day here for the North Gulf Coast. Back into Kamishak Bay, and for the Alaska Peninsula here, north to northwest, 10 to 15 knots, north 15 for Bristol Bay. And looking ahead to Tuesday, light variable winds here on the Pacific side of the peninsula, northwest at 15 on the Bering Sea side, north winds up to 20 knots for Bristol Bay with seas running 3 to 5 feet. And for the Aleutians there over the eastern areas, northeast at 10 to 15 knots, so pretty light for the Fox Islands with small craft advisories here, 25 to 30 knot easterlies, central Aleutians out towards Shimei and Attu. And that pretty much holds through Tuesday here with the easterly wind direction. Now the central Aleutians down under small craft advisories, but still 25 knots out west of Adak to Shemya, and variable to northeast, 10 to 15 knots for the eastern Aleutians. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, northerly winds at about 20 knots here, and then southwest 20 for St. Lawrence Island, so winds coming down continuously, and north or south at about 15 for the northern Bering Sea, northeast 15 for the Pribilofs. And then lighter winds even in store for Tuesday here for St. Lawrence Island. Westerly breezing out 15 knots. Northwest up to 20 there for the southwest coast. And south of Nunivak Island, north winds at about 20 knots. Northeast 20 or 22 knots for the Pribilofs, and northwest 15 for the northern Bering Sea. Along the Arctic coast, westerlies 15 to 20 knots on the eastern side. Central coast, small craft advisories, another day with the gales ending tonight here along the west, but still small craft advisories through tomorrow. Southwesterlies 25 to 30 knots. And small craft advisories hold on into Tuesday, but really drop off here from Wales up to Cape Lisburne with or Cape Beaufort, southwest coming down to 15 knots. Still small craft advisories on the central coast with westerlies at 20 on to the east. And looking at tonight's conditions again, or tonight's forecast, dry and mild here over much of the interior. We've got a front up here to the north with those gale force winds tonight here in advance of that front until it pushes inland and weakens, but chance of rain moving back to the central Arctic coast. Scattered showers, isolated thunderstorms over the central or the southern panhandle, but dry, clear conditions, gusty north winds, again 10 to 25 miles per hour possible here for the Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley, and those extreme fire dangers. Could be some smoke also working into northern Cook Inlet from that Willow fire. A lot of low clouds and fog continue out over the Bering Sea. Rain for the western Aleutians tomorrow, that edging eastward there a little bit of the edging westward of the high pressure area. So that's going to kick up the northeast winds here and clear it out more along the southwest coast. Chance of rain along the central and eastern Arctic coast, and again chance of thunderstorms over the southern panhandle. And that repeats itself on Tuesday, sunny and hot in the interior, highs 75 to 85, especially over the Susitna Valley.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.